We're right before the fast of Tisha B'av. So isn't this a great time to talk about fasting? And I want to give my take on intermittent fasting. And at the end, I'll give a few tips how you can make the fast of Tisha B'av a little easier on the body. So in general, I think bodies, like human beings, were meant to fast sometimes. For example, I think that having a good 10 to 12 hour break between the end of eating one day and breaking the fast, breakfast the next day, should be a 10 to 12 hour window, because when we fast, when we're not eating, it gives the body a chance to rest, to really rest its systems, the digestive system, other systems. And it also, when we fast, it puts the body into more of a fat burning mode. So for people, for example, who want to lose weight, having a fasting window is a good idea, certainly, but for everybody really, because it also gives the body in that resting period, like resting from eating, the body actually does a lot of work that is good for us, like what's called autophagy, for example, which is like repairing cells that need repairing, or maybe killing cells that need to be, gone and disposed of, or making new cells. So really, when we go into a fasting state, for our body, it is a good thing. Having said that, I do want to talk about the what's become very popular, this intermittent fasting for 2-3 days, things like that, or for doing a 24-hour fast or 36-hour fast for once a week or twice a week or something like that. Now, I think that for some people it's really, really good and it works, but just like any other nutritional philosophy, way of doing things, way of eating, it's not for everyone. Actually, I think that for people who have a problem like me with food addiction, it can actually be problematic, because when you do these very long fastings, what is very popular today in the intermittent fasting, it can cause, for people who are addicted to food, a rebound binging afterwards. So I think that this is something that has to be addressed and people should be careful of. So yes, I think that a night window of 10 to 12 hours minimum is very important. I think that, for example, intermittent fasting of 16-8 is good. I've also heard, and it actually makes sense to me, not to get into too much of a routine with fasting, which means to break it up a little, shake it up a little, so that your body is used to different kinds of fasting. Maybe do 16-8, but not every single day, for example, things like that. But yes, absolutely, the night fast is very, very important. So, and another thing to remember is that if you're doing a fasting window, and especially for example 16-8, most people prefer to do the eating window later in the day rather than earlier in the day, for example, just to begin eating around 1 o'clock and finish their eating around 7, right, or 8. But actually, from a metabolic point of view, it's actually better to make your eating window earlier in the day rather than later in the day, because our body metabolizes carbohydrates and in general food better in the morning hours, actually, in the first part of the day. So if you're gonna do intermittent fasting, make your eating window earlier rather than later. So that's about intermittent fasting. Just like everything else in nutrition, there are some people who it's really, really good for. There's definitely a metabolic scientific basis for for fasting, because when we don't eat and we don't, our insulin is low, then it gives the body and the insulin system a time to rest. If it's a time it's a time that our body can use the energy that we've stored, which most of our energy that's stored as fat. So it will use that energy rather than the energy that we need, that we eat. So yes, intermittent fasting is a good thing. For people who are addicted to food, I would say be careful of making long fasts, but it's important to have that fasting window during the night so that you really do break your fast in the morning. So let's talk about the Tisha B'av fast. First of all, the day before Tisha B'av, like, Erev Tisha B'av, the day of Tisha B'av is just a regular eating day, right? It's summer, the fast comes in pretty late. I would just say make sure you get in, your meals before, at least like one meal before, and then the meal to begin the fast. So at least 2 meals. Don't eat to bursting. That really doesn't do anything for your fast or for the way you feel during the fast. I would say eat to satiety, just like you usually do. Of course, make sure you hydrate very, very well. And it's always important to remember that hydration is not just water. It's also the salts, right? So that we can help retain the water. So make sure you're eating enough salt. Don't eat too salty because then we get thirsty and then it's uncomfortable. But don't eat very, very low salt because we want to be able to keep our electrolyte balance, our salt balance, as well as our liquid balance. So it's important to hydrate, very important to drink, and it's important to eat to satiety. People like me who are addicted to sugar and carbohydrates, of course, it's always better than to eat healthy fats and healthy proteins for the meal before the fast rather than carbohydrates, because carbohydrates make us hungrier, not fuller. So especially people who are addicted to sugar. So it's important to eat good proteins, healthy fats, lots of vegetables. Legumes are fantastic because we don't eat meat then. So it's like eat high fiber foods. They will absolutely help your satiety for a long time. The other thing that's important is when we break the fast. What I usually recommend is maximum, like have one good meal that you broke your fast with, and maybe one optional snack if needed after that. So there are some people who like to break their fast with a small snack and then wait a little while, but I would say wait an hour and then eat your meal, your big meal. There are some people who actually prefer to break their fast with a good meal, and then if you need it, have another snack. But if you don't, there's no you don't have to make up anything for when you're finished the fast. Again, very, very important to drink well after the fast, but also make sure that you replenish your salts. If you have a headache after the fast, actually they have these salt pills can really, really help with the headaches, and also magnesium can be a very good thing to take at the end of a fast so that you're replenishing the natural salts that we lose when we fast and when we sweat and we're not drinking to make it up. So this is how I would say to make sure. And another thing is people who drink a lot of caffeine, I would definitely recommend already now, like even before, like a week before a fast, start lowering your caffeine intake. It really, really helps with the headaches. So I really, really hope that we all have a significant fast. It's important to remember that the reason that we are fasting, which is the destruction of the temple, was because of that people were fighting, the infighting of the Jewish nation. So I pray for peace. I pray that we learn to live in peace with each other, even when we have opposing views, and really, really to learn to love each other and to discuss things. And this is really a time to reflect on that, on how we can, as a nation, be together, even when we have differences of opinion, still be one Jewish nation. So thank you for joining me for this week's message, and I will see you next week. Tzipi Livne, nurse and certified food addiction counselor. And don't forget to check out my services and programs in my website. See you then.